All right. Well, welcome everyone to the second Charleston Women in Tech Lunch and Learn event this year, I believe, right, Jackie? Number two?
I think this is number 3 technically, but
okay. Wonderful. Well, we are so excited to have so many of you joining us to hear from Brittany this afternoon. And we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off. Before we do that, just wanted to very quickly introduce myself. My name is Katie, and I am one of the board members for Charleston Women in Tech. And I also have joining on the call, Jackie. Do you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Thanks, Katie. My name is Jackie Jones. I am also a board member of Charleston Women in Tech. So we are so excited to have you all on this call. And thank you, Katie, for taking the time to organize this. And thank you, Brittany, for being our speaker today. So we're really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie. All right. So before we jump in, just want to do a couple quick reminders of the lovely Zoom etiquette that I'm sure we all know backwards and forwards by this point. But we are just going to ask as we get started that everyone please remain on mute unless you are called on when we get to that Q&A session, which we will have plenty of time for at the end of this presentation. We also ask that you, we offer that you can also just put your questions into the chat as we go. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as Brittany presents. And then I see most of you are camera off, which is A-okay. I was going to say, feel free to enjoy your lunch as this is a lunch and learn. And so we know that everyone has busy schedules. So feel free to, we'd love to see your faces. But if you prefer to remain camera off and so you can eat while you listen in, absolutely feel free to do that. And I would also ask if everyone would just take a moment as we get started and introduce yourself in the chat. Would love to hear where you are in Charleston, or maybe you're outside of Charleston, and where you are in your career search process. So maybe you're just kind of starting to search for that next step, that next role. Maybe you're here just to learn, or you hire folks yourself and you are just trying to stay up to date with the latest and greatest. Maybe you're already interviewing and applying places, and you maybe are just struggling to get folks to call you back. So wherever you may be within that career search journey, we would love to hear where you are in the state or in the Charleston area and what you're hoping to take away from today's presentation. So as we see the chat start to fill up, hopefully, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker for today. We are so excited to have Brittany. If you have not yet met Brittany, she and her company, Rez Rev, are all over the place. So if you have Post and Courier subscription, or if you are on LinkedIn and in this realm at all within the hiring sphere, you have probably heard of Rez Rev or seen it pop up. So Brittany is a talented career and small business coach. And Brittany has worked directly with individuals and small business leaders for years to help them achieve their individual and organizational goals. She's worked with recent graduates to high-level executives transitioning out of the military and into the civilian workforce, and successfully helped her clients secure a job. Her 10 years of management experience gave her the opportunity to scan thousands of resumes, conduct hundreds of interviews, and develop a passion for helping the right people find the right job. As a military spouse, Brittany has developed a keen awareness of the difficulties many face when changing jobs. Her passion for helping others connect to meaningful work launched her into starting 2 organizations to help serve job seekers and employers. Her first company, Cornerstone Career Solutions, focuses on helping job seekers navigate and excel in the often arduous hiring process through career coaching, resume writing, and interview prep. And her second company, the aforementioned the Rez Rev LLC, she serves as co-founder and co-CEO alongside Jackie Colep, who was part of our first Q1 Charleston Women in Tech entrepreneur focused panel discussion earlier this year. So now you get to meet the whole team. And Brittany is committed to rehumanizing the hiring process. So their application, Rez Rev, rehumanizes resumes with video to help save time, money, and frustration in the job search and hiring process. And I do hope that Brittany will also share a little bit of why Rez Rev was founded, because it's a very interesting story. But without further ado, if everyone will give a little emoji reaction and welcome Brittany.
Thank you so much, Katie. So excited to be here with you all today. Thank you all for taking your lunch break to share with us. Really appreciate it. And just thank you again for that wonderful introduction. So I'm really passionate about this topic and excited to share more with you all and hopefully help you. So what we're going to be talking about is how to write a great resume, how to hone your elevator pitch, and giving you some tips to help you stand out in the job market. And I'm also going to be sharing practical tips for things that you can do today to build that strong ATS-proof resume, answer that dreaded "tell me about yourself" question that we so often get asked at the first step in the interview, and provide some guidance on how to navigate career conversations like salary negotiations. So feel free to take notes. I do want to let you all know we're also going to send out a copy of this presentation to each of you post-event as a resource that you can use to reference in the future. So as Katie mentioned, my name is Brittany Betit, and I am a multi-passionate, faith-driven entrepreneur, career changer, and military spouse. I do have a background in operations, project, and human resource management. I worked in insurance and the federal contracting space for many years, and I've actually spent the past few years diving into the tech space. So for the past 4 years, I've worked on a project through the CDC to develop a community-based worksite wellness application called Self. And through the Rez Rev, the company that Katie mentioned that I co-founded with the incredible Jackie Colep, who many of you know, I help envision and create software that actually redesigns resumes with video, and I will share a little bit more about that later. So I'm passionate about health and total well-being, helping others, and connecting people to meaningful work, and I get to live out those passions every day. I have been just incredibly blessed to find and create work that fulfills my soul, and I want that for other people as well. So through Cornerstone and Rez Rev, I've had the privilege of working with individuals across industries and experience backgrounds, helping them achieve the job of their dreams. And I hope that these tips that I share with you today will assist you with your career journeys as well, to help you find work that excites and fulfills you. So I want to just give a quick overview of what we'll be discussing. So let's take a look here at the topics that we're going to cover in today's resume and career search crash course. So for resume tips, we're going to be talking about the 3 different resume types, resume formatting to beat those pesky applicant tracking systems, how to write a resume. I'm going to give you some tips on government jobs as well, as I know some of you may be applying for jobs in the federal space, and then the #1 rule for resumes. When we get to the career tips section, we're going to talk about the power of networking, tips for building your network, how to stand out in your job search, what an elevator pitch is and why it's important, where to search for jobs, how to effectively job search, and then how to advocate for yourself through that whole process. Then I'll share a little bit more about a way that you can get some free resume help and give a little bit more information about Rez Rev before we have our Q&A section. So if you have any questions during the presentation, as Katie mentioned, you can obviously post those in the chat. And thank you, Katie, for monitoring that for us today. And you can also write them down and hold them till the end, because we will have a period for that, but we have a lot of content to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, I know that we have attendees on this call today from all different experience levels, so we're going to start with some of the basics about resumes first. So there are 3 standard resume types: chronological, functional, and hybrid. Most people are going to be familiar with the chronological resume, and that focuses on your experience in reverse chronological order. So think most recent experience at the top and working down from there. The functional resume is useful if you really need to focus on skills and qualifications over past experience. It's not really a preferred resume format for most recruiters because they're not used to seeing it as often. but some job seekers like to use that if they're changing careers into a new industry, or even if they've been out of the workforce for a while so that it doesn't focus on those gaps in employment. The hybrid resume is the one that's most often used, and it's a combination of the best of both worlds. So it gives you a focus on skills and qualifications while equally highlighting past experience. So the resume template we're going to walk through today is actually a hybrid resume with work experience outlined in a reverse chronological format. So now that we've reviewed the standard resume types, we'll go ahead and review some of those formatting requirements. While you may think that it would help your resume to stand out if you add a pop of color, an image, or a fun font, we really recommend avoiding this. Many companies, especially those mid to large size organizations, use applicant tracking systems or ATS. The ATS systems literally act as resume robots, and they scan your resume, searching for keywords, and then sort you into a yes or no pile. So when dealing with applicant tracking systems, the key is simplicity. I like to use the KISS acronym, which some of you may have heard before. Keep it short and simple. So think about using traditional font styles such as Times New Roman, Georgia, or Calibri. Keep your font choice consistent throughout the entire document. And as for size, 12-point font is best, but try not to go any lower than 10-point font. It really makes it hard for the reader to see if the font is too small. And we also recommend not putting photos or special images on your resume. We'll touch on how to showcase that in a bit. Most resumes really should be kept to about 1 page, unless you're applying for a federal job or have over 10 years of highly relevant experience. Anytime you have 10 years or less experience, your resume really does need to stay on 1 page. So make sure that you make the most use of the page, balancing both text and white space, so there's not too much of either one. And when you do advance to the 2-page resume, you need to make sure that you can fill 2 full pages. The organization and flow of your resume are also very important. A recruiter or hiring manager should be able to take your resume and fold it in half, hamburger style, and see what they need to know in that top half of the page. So make sure that your resume is easy to read and that you highlight keywords and key points prominently. Most recruiters actually spend an average of about 6 seconds looking at resumes, which is not a lot of time at all. So show them what they need to see fast. Now, if you know that you're giving your resume directly to a person and that it's not going through an ATS, you can use a more aesthetically pleasing format, including adding maybe a more modern font, colors, or even icons to make things stand out. Even with more design-inspired resumes, though, keep in mind that simplicity is best. So now that we've covered some of those basics, let's go ahead and dive into how to write a resume and what to include. Having a strong resume is really important, as your resume is usually your first impression to a recruiter or hiring manager. There is one additional resume type that we haven't covered yet, and that's the federal resume format. Federal resumes require a lot of additional detail and have very strict formatting requirements. So for the purposes of this, we're just going to focus on how to build a general corporate resume format. And again, I mentioned in the topics that I'll provide a few tips on federal job search later in the presentation. So perhaps one of the most important things to make sure that you have on your resume is your contact information. Now, I know this may seem intuitive, but it's critical to know what to list and where. At the top of your resume, you need to list your first and last name, along with any associated credentials that follow your name. Under your name, list your city and state, phone number, and email address. You may have seen resumes in the past that listed full addresses. We recommend not doing this anymore. Your full address should never be listed on your resume because it can be a security concern when you're posting your resume to public job boards like Indeed and LinkedIn. Make sure that you list a personal phone number and a professional email account that you check often. If your LinkedIn profile is up to date, or if you're applying for a job via LinkedIn, make sure to include your custom LinkedIn profile URL. And if you want to showcase images and things like that, and you have a portfolio of work that you want to showcase, for example, this is really special to graphic designers or web developers showing off work that they've done, you can actually add the URL for your online portfolio, GitLab, or even your personal website right under your contact information. And if you do go on to multiple pages with your resume, make sure that your contact information is at the top of each page in case they get separated. And objective statements are actually a thing of the past now too. So what hiring decision makers look for now is a powerful professional summary. Your professional summary is really your first introduction to that recruiter or potential employer because it's the first thing they're seeing on your resume. So think LinkedIn tagline with this. Keep it short and concise, but personalized. And think about how you can quickly describe yourself and your professional goal in one sentence. One example is this: detail-oriented and personable full-stack developer with 5 years of experience problem-solving, collaborating with teams, and building great products. Directly under your professional summary is where you should list your qualifications or skills section. And that should really highlight skills that you are proficient in as they relate to the requirements of the job. So really take a look at that job description or advertisement and highlight or pull out those keywords or phrases that are directly tied to your specific skills or qualifications. If you have a level of proficiency or mastery in these areas, be sure to list them. Again, pulling in those keywords and phrases from the job description to really tailor this section. You can list technical or hard skills and soft skills. It's a good idea to list a mix of both. Be sure to highlight any technical systems that you have experience in, especially if they are listed in the job advertisement, or if you know that company works with a specific system. And as we now know, recruiters and hiring managers don't spend a lot of time reviewing your resume. At most, we've seen a hiring manager spend about 30 seconds scanning a resume, which is really not enough time to read the details when making a pre-screening selection decision. So again, just make sure that that most need to know information is front and center, it's concise, and that it stands out so that it's really easy for them to find and read. Because remember, your resume is your first impression. For recent graduates or jobs where education is a primary and required qualification, you want to put your education at the top of your resume right under your qualifications and skills, so before the experience section. And be sure to include your degree type, school or institution name, and year of completion. If you're currently going through the program, then list your anticipated graduation or completion date. Recent graduates may also find it beneficial to list course names or additional details regarding skills that were learned through your education. So you can see an example of that in the purple box on the top left of the screen. Traditionally, you would list education just by degree, school, and graduation date. Use the education section to list out any licenses or certifications as well. And make sure that you spell out acronyms in case they're not universally known, and list if the certification is active or if there is an expiration date. So diving into your professional experience, this is going to be the largest section of your resume. This is where you really get to go into detail and tie in those skills and qualifications that you have to specific responsibilities and accomplishments in various roles that you've held. Writing a good resume bullet may seem tricky, but if you follow a few simple tips, you'll find that it's really easier than you think to write a strong bullet. So what I found in the past is that many people find it easiest to start with the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. And the STAR method is actually often used as a template for answering interview questions well. So writing a bullet this way helps tell the story of what happened, what was required, what you did, and how it ended up. So this is actually really great practice, again, for how to answer those interview questions. So emerging workers who haven't had a lot of interview experience tend to really appreciate going through this exercise. Now, once you have that method down, it's best to revise the bullet into the RAC or CAR method. And RAC stands for result, action, and challenge. But again, it could be the reverse CAR, which is challenge, action, result. Either version is fine. And what this does is it really simplifies the details from the STAR method to highlight what's most important, and it allows you to save space on your resume. Be sure to use past tense for positions that are in the past, and use present tense for work that you're currently involved in. Now, listing rewards, accomplishments, and items of recognition are extremely helpful to showcase an employer a glimpse into your work ethic, drive, and even your motivations. You can use this section to highlight anything you've achieved through academic, professional, or even volunteer experience. If the word or achievement is directly related to the job that you're applying for, consider adding a career highlights or an experience highlights section to the top of your resume directly under your qualifications and skills. This will, again, pull that most need to know information front and center to catch the eye of a recruiter or hiring manager. And adding an experience highlight section can really help tell the story about your past roles and responsibilities and how those skills and expertise you learned in those roles can actually translate to the new jobs that you're applying for. If you're just entering the workforce or re-entering after taking some time away, highlight volunteer work or even skills and knowledge gained through non-traditional work experience. That can go a long way to help the person reviewing your resume understand that, even during your time prior to entering the workforce, you are still actively learning, developing, and harnessing your unique skill set. Now, we've got some of those government job tips here. So I know that, again, some of you may be seeking jobs within government agencies or organizations like NIWIC and others. So I wanted to just provide a few tips here to help you get started. Number one is to build a USA Jobs profile. Almost all government jobs are posted through USA Jobs, and starting and creating this profile in advance will save you the headache of having to gather all of the necessary information that's requested before the job post deadline. Now, federal jobs do require that federal resume format, which I spoke briefly about. And again, those are very detailed, much more extensive and in-depth, and usually run anywhere from 2 to 5 pages or more. So if you're able to, it's definitely recommended that you hire a professional to help you with your federal resume. With other industries, it's more reasonable to apply to jobs where you meet most, but maybe not all of the qualifications. For federal jobs, it's a little different. The qualifications that are listed on federal job advertisements are the minimum that are accepted. So make sure that you meet all of them before applying. And as with any resume, you'll hear this time and time again, keywords are your friend to get you through the application process, so use them extensively. Now, keep in mind, if you're a veteran, that many federal jobs have a veteran's preference, so make sure to notate that on both your application and your resume. And a final reminder here is to tailor each resume for the job you're applying to. It's a good idea to have a standard resume template to work from, but before you submit your resume for a job, make sure that you've pulled in those keywords from the job advertisement and really highlighted the experience that you have that's relevant to that job so that your resume will truly shine. There's actually a free tool called JobScan that you can use, and JobScan allows you to scan your resume and compare it to the job description, helping you identify keywords and points to focus on. Now, keep in mind, it is a free tool, and it's also an ATS simulator that collates a lot of different systems and their preferences in one, so it's not always 100% accurate. Definitely use your own discernment when reviewing keywords to decide what's best, or reach out to a career coach for help. So now that we have gone over resumes, let's go ahead and dive right into some career tips. When it comes to your career advancement and search, one of the absolute most important tools that you can have in your toolbox is your network. You may have even heard the saying that your network is your net worth. And what's crucial and important about this is to have the right people in your network and to spend time intentionally cultivating those relationships. The largest online networking platform is LinkedIn. And while LinkedIn is more popular with Gen Xers and millennials, everyone can benefit from building a strong network. So I'd love to tell you just a quick story. When I started my first company, Cornerstone Career Solutions, I went to LinkedIn and searched for networking groups, specifically for veterans and military spouses, knowing that that was a population that I wanted to serve. And I connected with others in the military community and was referred to an organization called Vets to Industry, which is a virtual networking group. Through Vets to Industry, I met a man named David, who was transitioning out of the Marine Corps and actually looking to begin a career in the tech space. Excuse me. So I set up a virtual coffee with David just to learn a little bit more about him, and found out that he needed a project to work on for his coding bootcamp classes. Ironically, Jackie and I were actively looking for someone to build the first version of Rez Rev. So it actually really worked out well because we networked and built that professional relationship, and we found something that was mutually beneficial. David was able to use building Rez Rev 1.0, we'll call it, to apply what he was learning in a tangible way. And we received the first web-based version of Rez Rev. David went on to secure a job at Microsoft, and we still keep in touch. I think that's a win-win. So it's important to maintain a strong digital presence online. As your career needs change and evolve, you'll really want to keep an active presence in community groups. Join groups that are positive and uplifting, where you really feel that sense of community and want to invest your valuable time. Remaining engaged with your network will make it easier to manage your career search when that time comes. So you may be wondering, well, Brittany, all this network talk sounds great, but where do I even begin, right? Well, here are a few simple tips to help. First, you have to make time to network. Setting aside even just 5 minutes a day can go a long way to help you build a strong network. Take a few moments to check in with others who are in your network. Maybe you saw someone posted a big life update. Feel free to interact and engage with them, see how things are going. And if you notice someone is looking for a job or has a specific connection request, reach out and see what you can do to help. Or maybe you have someone in your network that you can refer them to and make that connection. So, you should also take a few moments to share an update about yourself. You can share something you recently learned, or, even just something positive and enlightening that you think your network will enjoy. Just helps keep you active and engaged. And you want to focus on the value that you bring to others. Talk to people and see what they need. Zig Ziglar famously said, you can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So if you have a way to help, offer assistance. If you know someone who would be a good resource, offer to connect them with each other. This is one of the fundamental rules of relationship building. When we network to serve others first, we're more likely to meet the people that we need to meet and therefore to team with the right people. So practice facilitating meaningful connections to help others get what they need. Another great way to build your network is to create ambassadors. So get other people talking about you in a positive way. Some of us are really great and comfortable about bragging about our company or even the products that we're building, but we struggle to sell the value that we bring. This is really where ambassadors can help. So to get others talking about you, try stepping outside of your comfort zone. And maybe the next time you connect with someone, ask for an introduction to someone specific who can help you grow. Fourth, you want to concentrate your efforts and audit your network. So take a moment to reflect on the groups you're currently involved in. Think about, what do your current networking groups give you? Are they uplifting and resourceful? Are you able to meet people outside your industry? And are you able to build those mutually beneficial relationships? Are there some groups that seem to give you more answers or support than others? You want to make sure that you're spending more time in areas that really bring you knowledge and human capital, and with people who want to lift you up and support you and your goals. Groups like Charleston Women in Tech, for example. And always remember that you have something of value to offer. Even if you're just starting out in a new career field and think, there's really nothing I can offer, you'd be surprised. You bring a unique perspective to the table that can really help break down roadblocks others have stumbled across. So you have knowledge, skills, and expertise that can add value to others and build a robust network. So how to stand out on your job search. How many of you dread hearing, tell me about yourself, right? I think everyone does. I know from clients that I've worked with in the past that this question is the number one question that they struggle with and dislike. One way to overcome that is to develop a strong elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is a short, enticing preview about you and what you do, usually 30 seconds or less. Your elevator pitch is going to be one of your greatest opportunities to stand out, positioning yourself for the opportunities that you want. Working on your elevator pitch is a great way to practice communicating effectively when job searching and networking. Whenever you're interacting with a prospective employer or a recruiter, or even meeting others at a networking event for the first time, you can use your elevator pitch to convey your value for a desired role. So we'll quickly walk through a sample elevator pitch template that you can use to help you get started. So again, here's just a basic example of an elevator pitch. And it's a good place to start if you really have no idea where to start, but you can always change it up. So I'll go ahead and read this for everyone. My name is Brittany, and I have a background in operations and project management and recently completed a code school boot camp. I have a passion for coding software that improves systems and processes. I'm skilled in Java, Python, and C#, and my ideal role would be a software engineer for Blackbaud. So I recommend that you take a few minutes later today, maybe to just write out your elevator pitch and practice it. You can practice it in the mirror, practice it with a friend or coworker, and be ready to use it at the next Charleston Women in Tech event. The goal here is to be able to quickly articulate who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for. And like your resume, your elevator pitch can be tailored based on the conversation that you're having. So this is just, again, a basic template. It's a good guide to get you started. And this will be sent out after the presentation as a resource for you. All right, now on to job searching. So we know that searching for a job can be overwhelming, to say the least. So I want to give you some tips on how to simplify the process to help you feel empowered and in control of your job search. Number one is to check internally. So are there opportunities in your current company for advancement, or could you even talk to your boss about cross-training or maybe job shadowing another department to discover a new career path if you like the current place that you're working at? So keep in mind that employers are actually incentivized to keep you, and showing your interest in growing the company and taking on new responsibilities can help excel your career path. Number two would be to notify your network. So share an update with the people in your community groups or network, letting them know that you're looking for a new role, and share a few details about what you're looking for. People love getting those referral bonuses for recommending great people. So don't be afraid to ask about opportunities at a friend or connections company if you've heard great things about it. Number three is to search locally first, then expand. For jobs in the Charleston metro area, there are a ton of resources at your fingertips. Check out platforms like Charleston Open Source or the Charleston Regional Development Alliance, CRDA, and then expand your search to LinkedIn and Indeed. Those are two of the most popular job search sites today, excuse me. Number four would be to check out your dream company and see if they have a careers page. You can check that out and look for available job opportunities. Reach out to a company recruiter on LinkedIn or a hiring manager for that company and request an informational interview to see if you can learn more about open positions that they have available. Number five is to network at events. So attend those networking events, introduce yourself to employers, and share your elevator pitch. You never know where a conversation may go. If you're new to tech and you just recently finished a boot camp or a course, talk to your facilitator and see who they know. They may know of a company who's hired recent grads in the past and is a big advocate for the school. So that's a great resource to look into as well. And another option too is to research companies that offer and train to bring on entry-level professionals via internships or apprenticeship programs to fast track your career. Booz Allen Hamilton has a great program for this if you're interested in that. So let's talk about how to effectively job search. The number one key to effective job searching is research. You'll hear that over and over again, research, research, research. So you want to research the company that you want to work for and really get a thorough understanding of what they're about. That means taking a look at their company website and even their social media pages. Look at company reviews, check out the company Google page, see if they're part of the Better Business Bureau, and see what people are posting about them. This can really give you an idea of how that company conducts business and interacts with their customers. Then you can take a look at sites like Glassdoor, which allow employees to post reviews about the company, management, benefits, and more. If you have connections with people who work for that company, ask them to tell you what they think and see if they'd recommend it as a great place to work. When it comes to salary, you may have a salary in mind based on your needs, but it's still a really good idea to understand the pay range for the role that you seek based on location and experience. There are sites like salary.com and even the Bureau of Labor Statistics where they provide details on average salaries for a role. So we really recommend developing a thorough understanding so that your expectations are in line with the average location and company offerings. And you may think that a company's core values are just one piece of the puzzle, but it is a crucial piece. So a great exercise to get started is to write down what values are important to you. Knowing your values will help you decide if a company is aligned with you or not. Then go and research that company's core values. Some companies, for example, may put a larger focus on innovation and efficiency to reach bottom line goals faster, while others will put a focus on corporate culture and mission-focused operations. Through your research, figure out if it seemed as though the company was adhering to the values they set forth. If so, then you can feel confident that they're guided by those core values and principles to help foster a healthy workplace. Know what you want and don't waste your time applying to companies that don't align with your values. Impact is another thing to think about. So is making a positive difference in the work that you do important to you? See if you can really envision the impact that you'll have at a company based on the role that they're hiring for. Ask yourself if this is something that you want to do, and if you feel like you'll be making a positive difference in the world. Consider the impact this position will have for you specifically, for the company, for the local community, and even for the world. Writing down or identifying your job needs and wants is an important and fun exercise as well. You really need to have a clear understanding of what your needs are. So identifying those things that are what we like to call non-negotiables. For example, do you have to work from home, or do you require a flexible schedule so you can pick your kids up if needed? Is healthcare a must, or do you need a corporate culture that puts people first? Do you prefer a workplace that's solely metric driven to fulfill your desire to achieve? These are all things to think about. And after you've identified your needs, write those down and then identify your wants as well. Now, your wants are going to be those nice to have items like maybe unlimited vacation or the option to switch work styles from in-person to hybrid, or even company paid volunteer time. Then when you're searching for jobs, make sure that the roles that you're applying for can accommodate all of your needs at a minimum and at least meet a few of your wants. And perhaps one of the most underrated tips when it comes to career searching is communication. So as a job seeker, really pay attention to the rhythm of communication. Are you hearing back regularly? And do you feel as though you're up to date on your status as a candidate? Do you know what's expected of you? Sometimes the hiring process can actually be a really good indicator of how communication flows at that company. Knowing this in advance can help set the proper expectations, or it may help you realize that, it's not really the communication style that speaks to you. The other side of the communication platform in the job search process rests on you as the job seeker. If you've been engaged in the hiring process with an interview or offer, you have a responsibility to let the recruiter or hiring manager know if you're no longer interested. It's absolutely fine if you found another position that you plan to pursue, and that's really exciting and great. However, just make sure that you're not ghosting a recruiter if you've been offered another opportunity. Your word is your brand, and you want to maintain a positive reputation. So take just a few minutes to send them a quick message and keep that relationship positive. You never know who you may run into or who you may even work for or with in the future. And when you do get that long-awaited job offer, it's very exciting, right? So what you really want to do, though, is keep in mind that it's still important to advocate for what's best for you. Give yourself time to review the offer and don't ever feel pressured to respond on the spot. Through your research, you'll know what a good salary range is, and you'll know if that offer is in line with your expectations. If it's not, then put together a case to advocate for what you feel the role and your experience deserves. Gather at least 3 reasons to justify the salary that you're requesting, and then ask for it. If you're jumping into a new career field, sometimes it can feel overwhelming and uncertain. Make sure to talk to others in your support system to get that reassurance you need to take that leap of faith. And one quick note I want to make sure everyone knows, it's really important to know that recruiters cannot legally ask you about your current or past salary, benefits, or compensation. They can, however, ask for your preferred salary range, so be prepared for that question. So as you heard a little bit at the beginning of this presentation, my company Rez Rev is creating software that redesigns resumes with video to get you to the interview faster. We're passionate about rehumanizing the hiring process, and we think that video is the way to do that. We're actually offering free resume assistance for job seekers, and we wanted to extend the invitation to all of you. So please take us up on this. You can email our team at team@therezrev.com, or when this presentation link gets sent out, there's a link on our website where you can sign up for just to have a quick meeting with us. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at your resume, review it, chat about it with you, give you a couple practical tips to really help you prepare for the next step in your career. And I'd love to take just a couple minutes before we dive into the Q&A to share a quick update about our company, since I know so many of you know a little bit about us or have met Jackie and know her as well. So the Rez Rev is now a licensed employment agency in the state of South Carolina, which is very exciting. And we are a certified military spouse-owned business and certified also with the City of Charleston's Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise Office. And what we're really excited about right now as well is that we are actively engaged in pilot programs with regional companies. And we're actually in talks with national brands who are interested in piloting and using our Rez Rev video resumes. We do have a limited number of pilot spots available. So if that's something that you're interested in, then, please reach out and let us know. And we'd be happy to see if we can get you on the schedule for that. Now, what we're working on now is we're trying to transition from our web-based application into the development stage of our mobile application. So we're looking to gain additional data on what employers want to see when it comes to video resumes. So if you are a hiring decision maker, we would love to talk to you. We can schedule a virtual or in-person coffee on us and chat about your hiring process, needs, and even help you figure out how to improve and rehumanize your hiring process. So thank you all so much for your time and attention. I know we just covered a lot of information very quickly. So we'll take a break here to pause for any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brittany. That was, it was a ton of information, but also so great information. So thank you so much for sharing that. There was, I'll get us kicked off since there were a couple questions in the chat that I don't think were covered exactly, kind of touched on a little bit, but to get us kicked off, Liz asks, says, I am back to school in the tech market, but have a lot of skills from a previous career to tie in. Is it best practice to still highlight the past experience, including the new tech world that shows how your skills apply? So how do we leverage what feels like maybe it's unrelated job experience to a new career?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Congrats, Liz, on going back to school. That's very exciting. And this is really a great question. We get asked this actually all the time. So a lot of times when you're in the same industry for years and years, and it's maybe the only thing you've ever done, it can be really hard to figure out how to translate the skills and experience that you had in that career field to another one. But more often than not, there are so many things that are transferable. So what we recommend is really focusing on the skills and what the things that you developed through that experience, and not necessarily the technical role responsibilities. So think about the things that you are going to carry with you to the next job and really highlight those in your resume. So, if you do have past experience that is relevant and you can speak to that, absolutely include that in your resume, because that's going to help tell that story. And that's what your resume is really. It's a story about you and your experience. And as long as you tell it in the right way, then it's going to stand out and pique the interest of a recruiter or hiring manager. So again, just focus on those skills and what is transferable, what you're taking, what you've learned, what you're taking with you to the next job.
Thank you. Wonderful. Anyone have other questions? Feel free to use the raise hand feature under the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. However, in the meantime, Sean Lovely says, is there a way I can help with the development of the mobile app? So, Sean, I would definitely say reach out. I'm going to drop
Yes.
Brittany's email here in the chat so that you all can follow up on that. Love
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Awesome. And so Kim asks, she says, I've read one should not put years on academic degrees and roles so you don't allow for age discrimination. Any advice on how to combat ageism by the way of one's resume?
Yeah, that's a great question. So still, it's typically recommended across the board for most people to list the graduation year. However, if it's maybe over 15 years and you don't feel comfortable listing it, then don't. You're not required to, right? Like a resume is, again, like your story that you're telling. Ageism, unfortunately, is a real thing. And especially helping transitioning military who have had a full career and are retiring from the military, transition in the civilian workforce, they have 25, 30 years of experience. And, that can be a real thing for some companies where they look at and say, well, they clearly just retired from the military. They're not looking for, another job long-term. And then they kind of get weeded out. So we definitely have a lot of experience dealing with that and navigating those conversations. What I definitely recommend doing is not going past 20 years of experience on your resume. Most of the time, even 10 years of experience, a lot of that's going to be obsolete in terms of the technical space because things change so rapidly. And, a lot of that just isn't going to be as relevant. Again, what is relevant are going to be those skills that you've learned and taken with you. So you can absolutely highlight those, but you don't have to put those roles and responsibilities that you had from previous experiences. If they were, maybe a long time ago and you feel like ageism really could be a factor, keep in mind that when you get called in for an interview, that employer is going to meet you. So if it's someone who is really going to be ageist when they're looking at your resume, it's probably not a company that you want to work for anyway. Right. So just keep that in mind as well. But so just to recap, because I feel like I just gave a lot there. You don't have to go past 20 years of experience unless it's a federal resume and then they want everything. Okay. They want you to write a book. But other than that, focus on those skills, focus on the things that are actually relevant. And if you don't feel comfortable listing the year, you do not need to do that.
Right. Thank you. Great question. Great answer. Molly in the chat asks, is it recommended to highlight recognition that your team or your company received or only personal successes? Molly is 3 years out of college and wondering when it's necessary to drop any extracurriculars and student projects as well.
Okay. So the first part of that question is team versus personal success. Okay. So you can absolutely list team success on your resume. If you had an active part in that team and leading to the success of that project or development of a product or whatever it was, you are still a part of that and you still get to take credit for that. Your resume is your humble brag place. So make sure to pull that in and include it. And then 100%, if you have personal successes, definitely list those as well. And you can write those so that they are more personal instead of saying as part of a team, I completed XYZ. The second part of your question, you're 3 years out of college and wondering when to drop those extracurricular activities from your resume. The best rule of thumb for that is if you have other relevant experience to list, then you don't need to have those on anymore. If what your extracurricular or student projects are is relevant to the job, then keep it on there as so long as you have space. But as soon as you have experience that takes up enough space that you don't need that, get rid of it. If it's over 10 years ago, which you're not at right now, Molly, don't list it. So hopefully that's helpful.
All right, great. A couple more questions in the chat. And I think there's a slide on this one, so we may want to back it up. But Leo asks, what job search sites do you recommend as the best for job seekers?
Yeah, great question. So the two most popular job search sites are Indeed and LinkedIn, and you're going to find likely thousands, if not millions, of jobs available there. Something that you can do to help simplify that job search is to search local job boards first. Charleston Open Source has a great resource for tech opportunities. So does the CDRA. That's the Charleston Regional Development Alliance. Charleston Works has a platform. There's even, if you're a lady in tech, there's a company called Tech Ladies, and they actually are not local to Charleston. But if you're looking for other opportunities or even remote work, they have things as well. So a couple different options. Those bigger Job boards are a great place to look if you aren't concerned about feeling overwhelmed with the thousands of opportunities that are out there. But if you want to focus locally, search those local job boards first.
Awesome. Next question. Is it beneficial to work with an employment agency?
It can be, yes. So the benefit of working with an employment agency is that they are incentivized to get you hired, right? So they're working on your behalf, and they're working with the company. So it is kind of like a middleman situation. So just keep that in mind, because the communication that you get from an employment agency or even a recruiter who's not a company specific recruiter can be different from what the communication style of the actual company is. But yes, absolutely. If you're really struggling in your job search and you've been putting things out there, you've been tailoring your resume, you're not getting any bites, it's absolutely worthwhile to reach out and see what an employment agency can do to help you. And it should be at no cost to you, by the way.
Wonderful. And I know we only have 5 minutes left, but if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I have a question. I have 2 if we have time, but I also don't want to take over the what few minutes we have left. But so I'll start with cover letter or no?
It depends. I hate giving that answer, but it's the truth. So if the job requisition or job advertisement requests a cover letter, write a cover letter and include it. If it doesn't, then I wouldn't necessarily waste time doing it, because a lot of people now don't necessarily read the cover letter. So that's why the answer is it depends. If it's optional and you've got one, go ahead and put it on there. It doesn't hurt. But if it's required, then absolutely you should still put one in there. And your cover letter also should be tailored specifically for that role. So you can find a ton of great templates online for free, but make sure that you're really trying to personalize it to that role so that when someone is reading it, they know that you put time and effort into it.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'll ask my last one while anybody else can throw them in the chat. So Brittany, research shows that women are typically more hesitant to apply for a job when they don't meet 100% of the job requirements, whereas men tend to apply if they meet around 50 to 60% of those requirements. What percentage would you say of those qualifications or requirements should be met before applying?
Great question. And that's absolutely true. The research definitely shows that. So I know I spoke on this a little bit when I talked about those federal job applications. With federal jobs, you need to meet 100% of the qualifications, male or female. If you apply and you don't meet those qualifications, you're not going to get through, plain and simple. That's the way their system works. For traditional corporate jobs, though, in the civilian sector, if you're looking at the jobs, and you'll probably be able to tell like which ones are core requirements and which ones are preferred. Some company job descriptions even separate those and say like, these are our must-have requirements, these are preferred, or what we like to see. Then if they have them listed where they're required, you want to make sure you meet all of those required qualifications. If there's a mix, then actually 50 to 60% is just fine. A lot of times companies want to see that you have some of those skills and qualifications that they're looking for, but also they want to be able to train you the way that they want things to be done. So you absolutely do not have to meet 100% of the qualifications in a regular traditional corporate job to apply. And I would urge you to apply if it's a job that you think that it's something that you want and that you meet at least half of those qualifications for. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Brittany. If you all have any other questions, please feel free to reach out, team@rezrev.com. It's in the chat. And again, we will be sharing this slide deck and the video for today's Lunch and Learn out with everyone who registered through Meetup. So we'll also put it on our LinkedIn and share it all over the place. So connect with Brittany on LinkedIn as well. And we are just so grateful for you taking the time to share with us today. And just want to say thank you all for being here who joined us. Hope that you took away a lot of good tips and tricks from today. And please, please, please reach out if you have any other questions, and be sure to connect with Charleston Women in Tech. Follow us on LinkedIn as well. Connect with us on our Slack workspace and subscribe to our newsletter to stay in the loop with any and all cool events like this that are coming up. So thank you all so much. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week.
Yes, thank you all.